tripod among them all. Well, the three great heroes, Matsao, Pai-Chang, and along with Tsang. They were three great heroes, stood out like a tripod among them all. One day, as the master was walking along with Matsu, they saw a flock of wild ducks fly by. The ancestor said, "What is that?" The master said, "Wild ducks." Matsu said, "Well, where have they gone?" The master said, "Flown away." Matsu then turned around and grabbed the master's nose. Feeling pain, the master let out a cry. The ancestor said, "Still you say, flown away?" At these words, the master had an insight. Then the master returned to the attendant's quarters, wailing pitifully. Another monk, who worked as an attendant for Matsao, asked him, "Are you thinking of your parents?" The master said no. The fellow attendant said, "Has someone reviled you?" The master said no. The attendant said, "Then why are you crying?" The master said, "My nose was grabbed by the great teacher, and the pain hasn't stopped." The attendant said, "What happened? Why didn't you realize?" The master said, "Go ask the teacher." The attendant went and asked the great teacher, Matsu, "What incident happened that the attendant Huai-He has failed to accord with? He is in the attendant's quarters crying. Please explain this to me." Great teacher Ancestor Ma explained simply that Huai-He did indeed understand, and told the other attendant to go ask him. So the attendant went back and said to the master, "The teacher says you understand. He told me to ask you myself." The master then laughed. The attendant said, "Just a minute ago you were crying. Now why are you laughing?" The master said, "Just then I was crying. Right now I am laughing." The attendant was at a loss. The next day, Matsao went to the teaching hall. As soon as the community had assembled, the master came forward and rolled up the prostration mat, whereupon Matsao got down from his seat and went back to his room, with the master following behind. "Oh, pardon. I have got a thing on my screen. Go away. I don't want WhatsApp. Thank you. My God, I don't want WhatsApp. I don't understand. I can't afford it right now. I don't have cash app." Anywho, with the master following behind, Matsao said, "Just then, I had not yet said anything. Why did you roll up the mat?" The master said, "Yesterday you grabbed my nose and it hurt." Matsao said, "Yesterday? Where did you set your mind?" The master said, "My nose doesn't hurt anymore today." Matsao said, "I have deeply understood yesterday's event." The master bowed and withdrew. The master called upon Matsu a second time. As he stood by, Matsao looked at the whisk on the corner of the robe seat. The master said, "Do you identify with the function or detach from the function?" Matsao said, "Later on, when you open your lips, what will you use to help people?" The master took the whisk and held it up. Matsao said, "Do you identify with this function or detach from this function?" The master hung the whisk back where it had been before. Matsao drew himself up and shouted so loud that the master's ears were deafened for 3 days. Henceforth, the sound of thunder would roll. Generous believers invited him to the region of Xinhu in Hongzhou, where he dwelt on the Ta Sing mountain. The master said, Ancestor Ma has already passed on. Hung Bao said, well, what were Ancestor Ma's sayings? The master then cited circumstances of his second calling on Ancestor Ma and the raising of the whisk. He said, the way of enlightenment is not a small matter at the time. I was actually deafened for 3 days by Matsao's shout. When Hong Bao heard this, he unconsciously stuck out his tongue in awe. The master said, will you not succeed to Matsao hereafter? Hong Bao said, no. Today, thanks to your recital, I have been able to see Ancestor Ma's great capacity in action, but I do not know Ancestor Ma. If I were to succeed Ancestor Ma later on, I would be bereft of descendants. Master said, right. When one's view is equal to the teacher's, he diminishes his teacher's virtue by half. Only when his view surpasses the teacher's is he qualified to pass on the transmission. You sure have a view that goes beyond the teacher's. Later, Pai-Chang asked Yang-Shan, for the incident where Pai-Chang called on Ancestor Ma a second time and raised the whisk, what was the essential meaning of those two venerable adepts? Yang-Shan said, this is showing the function of great capacity. Pai-Chang said, Ancestor Ma produced 84 enlightened teachers. How many people attained his great capacity, and how many attained his great function? Yang-Shan said, Master Chang attained great capacity. Hung Bo attained great function. The rest were all just preachers of the way. Pai-Chang said, it is so. Matsao one day asked the master, where have you come from? And the master said, from the other side of the mountain. And Matsao said, did you meet anyone? The master said, no. The ancestor said, why not? And the master said, if I had, I would mention it to you. And Matsao said, how could this be happening? The master said, I am at fault. And Matsao said, on the contrary, it is my fault. Oh, you cute. In the teaching hall, the master said, the spiritual light shines alone, far transcending the senses and their fields. The essential substance is exposed, real and eternal. It is not contained in written words. The nature of the mind has no defilement. It is basically perfect and complete in itself. Just get rid of delusive attachments and merge with the realization of thusness. Someone asked, what's so extraordinary? And the master said, sitting alone on Sang Mountain. The questioning monk bowed, whereupon the master hid him. It sang. Okay. Said to the master, later on, how will you open up and teach people? The master closed and opened his hand twice. As Sang said, then what? And the master tapped his head 3 times with his hand. Whoa! Sorry. When Ancestor Ma sent someone to take a letter and 3 jars of bean paste to give to the master had to place them in front of the teaching hall. Then he went up into the hall. As soon as the community had gathered, he pointed at the bean paste jars with his staff and said, if you can speak, I will not break them. If you cannot speak, I will break master broke the jars and returned to his quarters. A certain monk came crying into the teaching hall. The master said, "What are you doing?" The monk said, "My father and mother have both died. Please, master, choose a day for their funeral." The master said, "Tomorrow. Bury them at once." Someone asked, "What does it mean when to understand the meaning according to the scriptures is the enemy of the Buddhas of past, present, and future? To depart, one word from scriptures, is the same as demon talk." Like, dude, that totally contradicts itself. What the hell does that mean, man? Help me out, man, because it's been begging me for years. Oh my god. Do not do. It's so, it was really, he traveled 500 miles just to ask, what do I do with this contradiction? And the master said, "Steadfastly watching over activity and stillness is the enemy of the Buddhas of past, present, and future. To seek anything particular beyond this is the same as deluded demon talk." Clear it up for you, buddy. Once, when the master had finished talking about the way and the crowd was leaving the hall, he called to them. When people turned their heads, he said, "What is it?" "Master." Well, you know what? Who else did that? Yun Min did that. We haven't read Yun Min. You know why? Because that guy was some kind of radical Zen. He was one of the big, famous greats, and he's good for us. But y'all ain't ready for some of that. Y'all ain't ready for that. So let's go. Master, having asked everyone to clear the fields, went back and asked Hung Bo, Reverend Young. "Clearing fields is not easy." Hung Bo said, "Well, the community of monks is working." And the master said, "There is strain on the work of the way." Hung Bo said, "Oh, how dare one avoid labor?" And the master said, "How many fields have you cleared?" Hung Bo made a gesture of hoeing the field, whereupon the master shouted. Hung Bo covered his ears and went out. The master asked Hung Bo, "Where have you come from?" And Hung Bo said, "From picking mushrooms on the mountain." The master said, "Well, there is a tiger on the mountain. Did you see him?" Hung Bo immediately made a tiger's roar. The master took the axe at his side and made a gesture of chopping. Hung Bo grabbed it and held it and immediately slapped the master. In the evening, the master went up into the hall and said, "People, there's a tiger on the mountain. You people should all watch out for him, coming and going. This morning, I myself got bit by him." Later, Pai-Chang said to Yang-Shan, "Well, what about the story of Hung Bo's tiger?" And Yang-Shan said, "What do you say, teacher?" Pai-Chang said, "At the time Pai-Chang should have immediately slain him with one blow of the axe. Why should it come to this?" And Yang-Shan said, "I disagree." Pai-Chang said, "How do you see?" Got this all screwed up. There's too many shings, peoples. It's a hard conversation to follow. But our 20 minutes is almost finished. Okay, Pai-Chang said, "How do you see it?" And Yang-Shan said, "Well, he not only rides the tiger's head, but he also knows how to hold the tiger's tail." And Pai-Chang said, "Gee, you sure have a dangerously presumptuous statement there." When the master went into the teaching hall each day, there was always an old man who listened to the teaching and then left as the assembly dispersed. One day, he didn't leave, and the master asked him, "Who are you standing there?" The old man said, "In the time of the ancient Buddha Kasyapa, lies on the other side of the mountain. Beg you, cremate it as you would a monk. The master ordered the duty distributor to strike the gavel and announce to the monks that after the noon meal everyone was requested to assemble and see off a dead monk. The community didn't understand this. The master led them to a cave, and on the other side of the mountain, and with his staff, he dragged out a dead fox. Then he cremated it according to custom. During the evening inquiry, after the master had recounted the preceding story, Hung Bao asked, "A man of old gave a wrong answer, and became subject to the body of a wild fox. Today, if one makes no mistake time after time, then the master said, "Come here, and I'll tell you." And Hung Pao drew nearer and gave the master a slap. The master clapped his hands, laughing, and said, "I knew that barbarians' beards were red. Here's another red-bearded barbarian."